Hello everyone, I hope you are well. I'm Samantha and welcome back to Honey Hill. I went out into the garden this morning and picked some flowers of what's blooming right now in July and wanted to create a loose, natural flower arrangement with you guys, something that's really simple and easy. I'm starting off with this beautiful glass vase with this lovely pie crust rim from Campo dei Fiori, and then I have some clear pot tape, and I just created a lattice pattern over the top to kind of act as a frog to hold things in place. I picked some beautiful strawberry greens. This is a green that I love. It's just such a beautiful form, the strawberry leaves, and I think the idea of using berry greens like blackberry greens or strawberries is such a wonderful natural touch to have. I'm just going to clean some of these up and see exactly how I want to use them. I don't know if I want it in like that and leave that whole bit in there, or if I want to clean that part off. So this, I'm going to be able to see this probably just from the front, so I'm not going to worry about too much about what's in the back. So I think I'm going to turn that around. Let's try to see if we can get it to cooperate here. It's a little wiry. And then I have my favorite from the garden, this Gaura, or also called the whirling butterflies. I love the way this looks. It's so summery to have the strawberry greens in there. I tend to garden this way and enjoy flower arrangements this way. Very leading lady heavy, if you've heard that term. I just love all the leading ladies in the garden. This is oregano that's gone to flower and smells lovely, and just to add a little bit of, for the fragrance and for that that shape and that texture. Ooh, what happened to you? She got a little bit dirty. I picked one of the, I could only bear to pick one of the Nicotiana Tinkerbell from the garden. I think she got something on her though from some of her neighbors in the bucket. But I just love that little very, very, very Tinkerbell-like form, and I think I just love that. Kind of have her coming off over there. And then I have the beautiful chocolate lace flower, the Dara. I'm gonna have her back here. A few of her. And then very special, very, very special is the Dawn Creek zinnias that I have. It's so relaxing, I find, to do flower arrangements. I did add some floral preservative to the water. I try to have some extra sachets around. I'm trying to get better, to be honest, about picking flowers from the garden, because I love the way they look so much that it's really hard for me to pick them. I think a lot of gardeners can relate to that, because they just look so beautiful in the garden. It's hard to take them away. This is that beautiful larkspur, and it is mostly gone over now in my garden since it was self-sown, what was blooming this year. It bloomed a little bit earlier, I think, than for some, and so it's already kind of mostly going over for me and going to seed, and that's okay. These are some beautiful chocolate flake sweet peas. The sweet peas, so it's been a really tough year for sweet peas with the heat waves we've had in the Northwest. In all the years past that I've grown sweet peas, they have had incredibly long stems, strong fragrance, and bloomed for a really long time. And I think they're really struggling, so I'm trying to give them as much water and as much extra food. You really can't overfeed sweet peas. And what the heat does is it shortens the stems, it makes the blooms not last as long, so the flowers want to go to seed quickly. And so I just am almost like not even letting them bloom. I'm just trying to cut them as quickly as possible to kind of encourage them to keep blooming. Sweet peas are one of those cut and come again flowers. The more you cut them, the more they bloom. And they have just been not at their best this year as they've been in years past. I'm going to be adding in some of the zinnias from my garden that came from the Dawn Creek mix. This very special Dawn Creek seed. So look at that beautiful. This one actually I picked several days ago. So I had to include her though because she's just so beautiful. I'm gonna try to put in as many of the zinnias as possible and see where we end up. I like the idea of being able to kind of look up at levels. I told you I have a horrible earwig problem. There's an earwig in the water. It just fell off this flower. I'm gonna have to fish him out later. And this has been a crazy year for earwigs. I've never had them like this before. They're just everywhere in everything, and I am not here for it. Here's a little, she fell in the water. This is a Coco Loco rose. It is really hard for me to pick my roses, especially because I love to see them blooming in the garden. And we do have such a problem with deer that they do quite a lot of deadheading for me. So it's hard for me to take even more away. This is some of the beautiful creme brulee phlox, which, I love phlox, which is also, I think, having a hard time in the heat this year. I tried to, so last year I direct sowed all of my annual phlox, and it performed really well for me. I was just a little bit disappointed in how long it took them to bloom. And this is a Love and a Mist seed pod that went over. The Love and a Mist also was self-sown, so it bloomed earlier for me and has gone over quicker. But that being said, with the phlox, I started it all from seed indoors this year and was happy with how quickly it came into flower, but it's just not growing as robustly as it did for me last year being self-sown or being direct sown. So I think it's good to experiment and see how these annual flowers perform in your particular garden, even if starting indoors is recommended. Just try a little both ways and see what actually works best in your space. So I also have my little tiny distant drums bloom. That's something that the heat does to the roses, is it does affect their bloom size. So if you're living in an area where you're having extreme heat and temperatures and you're noticing a difference in your flowers, roses are affected by the heat. Their blooms will be smaller. Oftentimes, especially with the lighter color roses, they'll be much paler. So I have a lot of the David Austins like Emily Bronte and Litchfield Angel, Crown Princess Margarita, which are all just very creamy right now. You're not really seeing the apricot or the pink or some of the color that they are supposed to have, just because it's been so hot. Yeah, these sweet pea stems are so tiny. They're normally like that long. I'm gonna tuck some in there. I kind of like to be able to see at different levels into the flower, so down and up. Let me see. Yeah. And I don't want to get it too full. I want to be able to not be afraid of that open space and just have this be really simple and really, really natural. Maybe get a little more of the oregano in there. It's gone to flower in the back. And then another of the Love in a Mist seed pod. And then I'm just going to finish off with the last of the sweet peas. And I love just to have a representation of color, of what's in the garden, and just kind of have it all in there. I think I garden that way. I garden, you know, with my own color palette. And so when I do go to cut flowers, normally I like how they all just kind of naturally come together. Okay, I think that's her done. It's a very simple, very airy representation of July, of what is in the garden right now. I think that is her pretty well done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next time.